basketball fans? It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for Week 18 of the NBA and the Fantasy NBA season. Week 18 in most leagues is a combined week for Week 18 and Week 19 of the NBA season because of the All-Star half weeks. Also, we just went past the trade deadline, so this is probably going to be a long video. I'll try and talk less than I normally do, although anyone who knows me, I say that my entire life. I'm going to try and talk less, and that doesn't work out. But we'll see. I got well past 8 bullet points, which means well over 10 guys that I want to get to. So let's not dilly-dally. If you haven't watched the Week 18 preview already, or Week 18 Part 1 preview, click the link here. Check it out. Otherwise, let's get into it. Got a couple names to start that I'm not going to spend too much time on because we've talked about them in other weeks. I think you know how I feel about it. But Coby White is 42% rostered, and Ayo Dosunmu 47% rostered. They're both healthy. They're both playing again. Give them a look. I'm not going to go too far into it because you know what I'm going to say, but you know, look at the stat line I've got up for Coby. 16, 9, 5. Like, that's great. And he's available in at least half of the leagues. Nothing's changed. They've got 2 games this week, 2 games the other half of the All-Star break. So it's not a special 3-game week on either side of it, but they're usable now and potentially for most of the rest of the year, at least until they're spending minutes with Lonzo when he gets back. All right, the number 1 pickup in this video is going to be Devin Vassell. He's the biggest winner outside of Ben Simmons actually returning to basketball, but he's the biggest winner, I think, of the entire trade deadline. He's 48% rostered by the time you're watching this and looking. He maybe broke that 50% mark, but as of now, as of recording, he still hasn't crossed 50. Most of the time when I'm recommending people pick someone up, I'm saying, like, this is someone who should be rostered in all leagues. Maybe not by your team, but some team in your league should roster. Vassell might be one of those rare cases where I think you should find a spot for him if you can. They may not be super flashy numbers, but especially in a category league, they're well-rounded. We've liked him before in prior weeks earlier in the season. And now that White has been traded to Boston, Vassell's in the starting lineup. I think that's hopefully going to stay for the rest of the year. And, you know, 25-3 with a couple steals, couple threes. Like, you're not going to turn your nose up at it. And his field goal percentage can vary a little bit. He's averaging 43% for the season. That's a little lower than maybe you would want, but he doesn't take so many shots that that's going to kill you. He's easily my top pickup for this week's video because I think he has sustained value beyond just the 2 games he plays for the first half of Week 18. Next up, Darius Bazley, 46% rostered. I've talked to him about him in other weeks, but he's coming on. He's getting a lot of playing time. Last game, 17-8, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. You can't count on getting 5 combined defensive stats like that. But before that, 14-15, 1-1-1. This is great. He's also hitting you 3-pointers. I think it could be a little inconsistent here, but I think you can plug him in and not worry about it too much. His field goal percentage for the season's at 40%. So there are going to be some down games, but his games are usually above that. He just has games like back on February 4th, he shot 16% against Portland, and that's not great. You only ended with 4 points. But OKC is going to be entering the tank more now, right? We've got SGAs sitting out injured. We don't know how long this is going to last. If you're Alexander owner, like maybe Shady's not coming back for you. It's possible. Bazley should be securely in this lineup. Not that they're playing exactly the same position, but I just think OKC, well, it's a team full of youth. They're going to keep playing their young guys. They're not worried about trying to win these games, and he should be okay. Next up, I got Aleksej Pokusevski from Indiana. This one I'm a little less confident in. He's 13% rostered, so he's widely available, and he's playing well right now. Last game, 18-11 with 2 blocks. Before that, he had 15-6 with 2 steals. He also had some assists and 3s in there, so he's giving you everything you need, widely available. Indiana made a lot of moves at the trade deadline, and they've got injuries. Turner's out. I'm not sure if he's coming back this year, maybe right before the end. I just don't know where that injury status is, right? They got Isaiah Jackson. He's hurt right now. He might be coming back. Terry Taylor, they pulled him up. He's been playing well. So it's kind of crowded. I don't know what's going to work out. They just traded for Jalen Smith, right? So I've seen Aleksej Pokusevski be really impactful for fantasy before. He's playing hot right now. Indiana's got 2 games this week against the Bucks on a good streaming day on Tuesday for the first half of this week. I'm willing to pick him up and give him a shot and see what happens. He's playing today, as of recording, February 13th against Minnesota at 3 in the afternoon Eastern. So by the time you're watching this, that might already be over. But I'm willing to give it a run, but I don't think this is a long-term ad. But he can be valuable in these spot starts. Along those same lines, not a long-term ad, but valuable, Cam Thomas from Brooklyn. So Harden's out, and while Harden was out because of injury, Cam Thomas was playing well. Well, Harden's traded out now, so Cam Thomas will keep getting run. Now, Ben Simmons gets into the fold. How are they going to use him? What position? How does that affect the minutes and rotation? We don't know yet, so we can make any guesses. So I don't think it's a long-term ad, but he's 26% rostered, and he's playing really well, especially in your points league that condense it. But he just had 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists before they had 27 points and 4 rebounds. Got a couple of steals in each of those games. I don't know if that's always going to keep up, but I bet you could expect a steal a game. So 2 threes and a steal a game, around 20 points and 4 rebounds. That feels like a pretty consistent average over the sample size we've seen. And if Ben Simmons doesn't really affect his minutes, which I think is possible, then Cam Thomas is going to keep getting minutes at guard, especially at home when Kyrie can't be playing. And we've got a stretch of that. Brooklyn's got 3 games for the first half of this week. So it's really helpful. It's one of the rare teams with 3 games. And their only their only away game is at the Knicks, which really still counts as a home game for the Kyrie rules, right? So you get Sacramento, Knicks, Washington. You like all those matchups. Kyrie shouldn't be able to play. I like picking up Cam Thomas right now and using him. See how it goes. There's also the fun thing where Brooklyn is the only team that has a Thursday game. So the last game before All-Star break, and then an immediate game on the other side of it. So you can pick him up and use him for the stretch. And then if you need to change it up, you go ahead, but you're getting like 4 games out of that single move going into this week. Rather than flash in the pan, if you're looking for season-long guard help, let's talk about the Washington Wizards. They got Raul Neto and Ish Smith. I think they're both viable pickups. So Neto's 4% rostered. I got Ish Smith at 8% rostered. That's going to go up. I've seen a lot of people being like, not interested in Neto. Ish is coming. It's Ish's 3rd time on the Wizards in his career. He's going to get that job. But I think they're both going to be totally viable. There's plenty of minutes for both of them. If we back up, Holiday was there in Washington. Beal's out hurt now, and they traded away Dinwiddie. So they've lost 3 guards, and we're now talking about 2 guards. I think there's plenty of time for both of them. Neto's last couple games, 10-2 and 4, 21-1 and 6, getting you a little bit more in assists, scoring some. Not flashy or exciting, but if you pick up a guy that you can plug in for the rest of the year and you don't have to keep churning and stuff, that lets you do some other things with your waiver moves for streaming. I think that could be helpful. Ish might bring a little more. He's 1 game back with the Wizard, 9-2, 5 assists, 3 steals and a block. He's not going to be getting you 4 combined all the time. That's just something that happened, whether it's because of Sacramento or just everyone's got games like that. So I think Ish might be a little bit safer, but we're talking safer of also around 11 points, 5 or 6 assists, maybe between 4 and 6 assists. Like, I don't think it's going to be that different than what we just saw, although his minutes should get a little higher than the 19 he just played. It's a small sample size. Washington has 3 games for the first half of this week. I think you're fine picking either of them up, seeing what happens. And I don't think you're going to be cutting it because anyone's dropped out of the rotation, but you may just have a bigger impact. Say, I don't know, Bagley starts playing for Detroit and you're just like, hey, I'm more interested in jumping on this shiny object from a trade rather than just consistent numbers from one of these Washington guards. But if you're looking for a guard to plug in, I think either one's fine. All right, let's start reaching a little more. I'm excited about Justise Winslow in Portland. It might not work out. I've on this channel somewhat famously, well, as famous as this channel, I guess. I was really excited when the Grizzlies years ago traded for Justise Winslow. It completely didn't work out. I said, pick him up, blah, 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 blah. I'm doing it again. He's in Portland. Portland's team is not good. They sold off a bunch of parts. Dame is out clearly for the year. He's not coming back for this type of thing. Justise Winslow is back in the starting lineup, which he hasn't been in his last couple situations, and he's playing really well. Let's look at his box scores. Last game, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. Sounds pretty good, especially in category leagues. 50% from the floor, didn't miss a free throw. Awesome, although he doesn't take a ton of free throws. Next game, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals. Now, you're not going to get 4 steals from him all the time. That's kind of crazy. But game before that, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He's getting you defensive stats, whether they vary. I mean, we can go back and even when he's on the Clippers, had a game against Chicago, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Like if you're combining that whether it's for points league or just counting on getting some defensive stats. He's getting you a little of everything. If they're going to start him, I think he's going to be valuable at really filling this stuff out. Now, he's not going to be a high point scorer, and maybe he's not going to be great field goal percentage for your power forward. He has 44% from the floor for the season. That's not really what you want out of a power forward spot. If he's getting enough of those minutes, I think you might just get a really full stat sheet for your categories league. 26% rostered. I think he's worth the gamble. And if it doesn't work, there's always people on the waiver wire you can cut and move on. I think he's getting overlooked. If you want someone more consistent and maybe not as flashy of a pickup, Brandon Clarke. I think we've talked about him on prior waiver wire weeks. He's 36% rostered. He's really involved in the rotation at Grizzlies, and he's playing really well. He's got some fun alley-oop dunks. Hopefully you've seen some of the highlights here. They're just solid power forward box scores. We're talking about 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a block. 14, 9, and 3, a steal and a block. 18, 7, 4, 3 blocks. Like, he's getting you points and rebounds with a little bit of assists. He's not really shooting the 3, but that's okay because it's helping keep his field goal percentage really high at 65%. He doesn't take a ton of shots, so it's not going to really sway you anywhere, but he's not hurting you. We were just talking about Winslow's being low. Clarke's is going to be a little bit higher. The Grizzlies only have 2 games for the first half of this week, but I think if you pick him up, he's going to be really effective for you, and you just get to keep using him. I don't really talk about 9 category in here because I don't care about turnovers. If you're playing more minutes than the other team, you're usually going to lose turnovers regardless. But if you include that, Brandon Clarke's really high in the rankings, and he's just being overlooked because on top of these good stats, he just doesn't really lose the ball. He's not ball handling all that much. So I think he's great in any of the category leagues. And I think he's fine in a points league where it condenses. All right, let's go back to OKC. We got to talk about Poku. I'm not super confident this is going to work out, but I think he's worth the gamble. His last game was a little bit of a dud against Chicago. I actually grabbed the screenshot last night while I was prepping for the show before the game was over. So he's probably a little higher than 7 points, 4 rebounds, but he did get 3 blocks. But his games before, 15-6 with a block, 18-4 with 4 steals and 2 blocks. His defensive stats are not going to keep up that high. You know, a couple games before that against Sacramento, he had 12-9. I think he's going to be really involved, and in a category league where he can fill out the stat sheet, I think it's going to be worth it. But he's not going to be consistent, right? He's a young, lanky guy who will do the types of thing where it's like he turns the ball over, runs back on defense, steals the ball, runs back, tries to dunk it, maybe misses it. Like, you're going to get the good and the bad all the time in the same game. It makes him really interesting to watch. I think he's got a bright future. I think it could be worth picking up in fantasy, but there's a reason he's last on this list. It wasn't just for the t-shirt reveal. It's that I don't know he's going to do it yet. If you're in your keeper or dynasty league and he's available, he's only 23% rostered across all leagues. So there's a decent chance he's available in a bunch of keeper leagues. I would go scoop him up on the chance that something changes and you get to use him. I think his minutes are going to go up. If you look at that, that's the big thing here. He had 30 minutes against Philly, 30 minutes against Toronto, 26 minutes against Sacramento. We want to see those minutes stay up to see what he can do. His ceiling is high, but I don't think it's a safe bet. And I would go elsewhere if you're trying to win these weeks. There's plenty of people picking up, Sengun from Houston, and I've seen him pop up on waiver lists over the last few weeks. I mean, I brought him up this season. I'm kind of hitting a point where we're late enough in the season that I don't know that I really want to wait on guys and hope that it comes together. Just because the minutes are ticking up, feel free to say, no, this isn't for me. That's fine. But I think you, at minimum, should go on your watch list, even if you don't want to add him. Start getting a sense of him because it could be really effective next year. So check him out while he's still playing. There's probably not too many OKC games on in your area, unless you're local to OKC. Oh boy, that's most of the names, but I'm not done yet. Let's talk about some watch lists. Give a look in your league for Jamal Murray. He's 32% rostered, but I would only pick him up if you can slot him into your injured reserve. They're saying that he's going to be back this season. I kind of don't love that for fantasy because I don't know when he's going to be back. And when he's back, does he play every game? And are you going to feel safe trusting him in your fantasy playoffs? Maybe. If you do, he's going to be more effective than anyone we talked about on this list. If he's fully back, then great. He will outperform Vassell and Bazley, the guys I started off with, that I really want you to pick up. But you're not going to get to use them right now. And wins are important. I don't want you to recommend you sit on anyone for just a month. So if you have an injured reserve spot, go ahead, grab Murray now and just sit on him. If he has to be in your active roster and he's making you lose some games, meaning losing the opportunities of games, not necessarily losing your matchups, then I pass on him. Take a look, see what you want to do. There's been some buzz about Dorian Finney-Smith in Dallas because they traded away Porzingis and stuff and they need some bigs and they went and gave him a bigger contract. I'm glad for him. He got $55 million, like a 4-year deal, life-changing money for that young man. Great. I don't love him for fantasy. I think he's fine for watch list. He's 40% rostered. He's getting 12-7, 11-7, 11-4. He's getting you a handful of steals, which is kind of nice, but I don't think there's anything standing out. I don't think it's going to change very much. I think I already mentioned some other bigs that could play, bigs depending on how you want to look at it. Power forward. He's small for power forward eligible, at least for Yahoo, which is what I'm looking at right now. I'm not tripping all over myself. Honestly, I'd be a little more interested in Thaddeus Young at 26% rostered. He hasn't played yet for Toronto, but they gave up a pick for him. I should caution that. They did give up a first-round pick in the deal, but they got a second-round pick back. So when you just look at people blurbing about it, like, Toronto gave up a first-round pick to get Thad Young. He's going to be super involved. Well, they moved from a first to a high second. It's just like shifting back 15 picks or whatever. Let's not overblow it. But when we have seen Thad Young briefly play for San Antonio, he was still involved and he was really good, and then they just wouldn't use him at all. But when he was on the floor, he made an impact for the game and for fantasy. I think Toronto could use him as a good, consistent presence, and hopefully that will result in solid kind of double-double or 10 points, 8 rebounds, maybe a steal and a block. But I'm not going nuts for it. I think he's probably still watch list, but I'm a little more eager to go with Thad than DFS if I'm looking for people that, are going to slot into my power forward spot post the trade deadline. Whew! A lot of names. Super Bowl Sunday or Super Hangover Monday or whenever during the week, just week 18, depending on when you're watching this. If you got any questions, if there's names I missed somehow in this long, long shopping list of names, go ahead, hit me up in the comments down below. Hit me up on Twitter. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. I'll be back real soon. You know what I want you to do? Go out and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.